The scorching Texas sun beat down on the dusty marketplace of Willow Creek as Sarah Bennett stood tall on the makeshift platform, her wrists tied, her dignity the only thing she hadn't lost. The crowd gathered like vultures, hungry for a show, for cruelty, for ownership. It was August 1878, and the drought had turned land and souls brittle. Jake Morrison raised his voice, full of the same greed that ran this town. "Gentlemen, what we have here is prime merchandise." Laughter rolled through the crowd. Some men whistled. Others nudged each other. Sarah kept her chin high. She didn't let them see her flinch. 3 months ago, she had been tending her father's farm. Now she was here, sold off as payment for debts she couldn't prevent. A voice cut through the filth and noise. "That's enough." Everything went still. The crowd parted without being told to. A tall man with storm-gray eyes stepped forward, his spurs cutting through the silence with each slow step. Ethan Rollins, wealthiest rancher in 3 counties, a man respected, feared, and whispered about. Broad shoulders, jaw like hewn stone, and eyes that carried the weight of a past nobody dared ask about. Morrison tried to keep his voice steady. "Mr. Rollins, I didn't expect you today." "How much to end this?" Ethan asked, gaze fixed on Sarah. Morrison blinked. "For you? 200 should clear the—" "There are $300 in that pouch," Ethan said, tossing it at him. 200 for her debts. 100 to make sure you never hold an auction like this again in front of me." The crowd muttered. Morrison fumbled with the pouch, greed overtaking any pride he had left. He cut Sarah free with shaking hands. "She's all yours." Sarah rubbed her sore wrists as she stepped off the platform. Saved, or simply transferred. She didn't know. Ethan didn't wait to check. He turned and walked. "Can you ride?" he asked without looking back. "Yes," Sarah said, voice rough from holding back fear. "Good. My wagon's outside." She climbed into it, only to find 4 children staring at her, wide-eyed, quiet, uncertain. "Orphans," Ethan later explained, taken in when no one else wanted them. Boys and girls who had learned to work young, children with heartbreak in their eyes. The ride to his ranch took hours over lonely land, dry prairie, silent sky, dust that settled into everything. Ethan didn't speak until she finally asked, "Why did you buy me?" "I didn't buy you," he said. "I paid your debts. You're free." "I'm not free if I have nowhere to go." His jaw tightened. "You can leave whenever you choose, but you'd be safer with a roof over your head." "You don't want me here," she said quietly. He didn't answer, but his hands tightened on the reins. When the Double R Ranch appeared over the rise, Sarah's breath caught. A large timber house, real glass windows, barns, cowboys working, a life built with sweat and pain and something deeper. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It's practical," Ethan replied. But she saw the roses climbing the porch, a woman's touch. His late wife's, she guessed. As the wagon stopped, the children hopped off. Tom, the oldest, was serious and watchful. Annie, the youngest, beamed with shy curiosity. James and Mary looked torn between fear and hope. "Tom," Ethan called, "show Miss Bennett to the blue room." Inside, Sarah felt lost. The house was big but hollow, full of memories that weren't hers. Tom led her upstairs. "Mr. Rollins doesn't bring people home," Tom said softly. "He's hard, but fair. He don't hit. There's always food." "That's more than some children get," Sarah whispered. When Tom left her in the room, simple bed, quilted blanket, washstand, Sarah sat on the edge and finally let herself breathe. Was she safe, or simply trapped somewhere new? A soft knock sounded. Rosa, the housekeeper, entered with folded clothes. "Senor Rollins asked me to bring these. Clean dresses, boots. You'll need them." "What does he expect from me?" Sarah asked. Rosa studied her. "He expects nothing, but the house, the children. They need someone. And Ethan." She hesitated. "He is a hard man, but not cruel. His heart is buried under grief." At supper, Sarah joined them, 4 children, eating quietly. Ethan at the head of the table, speaking only when necessary. "Miss Bennet," he said, "you'll help in the house, until you choose otherwise." Sarah nodded. "I'll do my best." Later, as she tried to help clean, Ethan stopped her. "Rosa handles that." "I need to earn my keep somehow," she said. "You paid for my freedom." "I paid to stop what was happening," he snapped. "You're not property." "Then what am I?" He stared at her for a long moment. "A guest. For now." "Then if I wanted to leave?" "I'd give you a horse, money, supplies, but I'd ask you to think carefully. A woman alone doesn't last long out here." She swallowed. There was truth in that. That night, as she walked past the children's rooms, she heard them whisper. "Is she staying? Will she leave? Do you think she's nice?" Sarah paused, listening to their small hopes crackling in the dark. Downstairs, Ethan stood on the porch, staring into the night like a man trapped between past and future. The moonlight caught the grief carved into his face. He looked like someone who carried 1,000 scars no one else saw. Sarah watched him, wondering what kind of man paid for a stranger's freedom, and then kept his distance like he feared getting burned. She went to bed unsure of what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time in months, she slept in a real bed, safe, warm, and with a strange spark of something she hadn't felt in far too long. Hope. What happens when a woman with no place to belong suddenly becomes the one everyone depends on? The first week at the Double R Ranch shattered whatever confidence Sarah believed she had. She rose before dawn, determined to prove she was worth keeping around, but nothing she touched went right. The cast-iron stove burned everything. The laundry took more strength than her thin arms could manage. Even making beds seemed to have a secret method no one had taught her. One morning, after she burned a whole pot of porridge and filled the kitchen with smoke, Ethan appeared in the doorway, face dark as a storm. "What in the blazes happened here?" Quote. Sarah turned, horrified, waving a rag at the smoke. "I'm sorry, I was trying to burn my house down?" His tone stung. She straightened, frustration rising like heat inside her chest. "I was trying to earn my keep," she snapped. "Trying to prove I'm not just a burden you're stuck with." "I never said you were." "You don't have to say it," she fired back. "I see it. The way you look at me, like you bought something you don't know what to do with." His eyes hardened. "I didn't buy." But the argument broke when a sharp crash echoed from upstairs, followed by Annie's terrified scream. Ethan and Sarah ran. Mary lay on the floor in her room, face flushed, breath shallow, her little body burning with fever. Annie cried beside her, trembling. She said she didn't feel good. Then she fell. Annie sobbed. Ethan's face went pale. "Tom, ride to town for Doc Morrison." Rosa burst into the doorway. "The doctor is gone. Austin for 3 days." Ethan looked like a man drowning. Sarah stepped forward, voice steady despite her fear. "Lay her on the bed. Let me look." Quote. "You're not a doctor," Ethan said. "No," she said softly, "but I've nursed fevers before, and it's all we've got." He hesitated, but only for a second, then gently placed Mary onto the bed. Sarah checked her breathing, her throat, her pulse. "It's fever, but not the deadly kind. We can bring it down." She took charge like she'd been doing it all her life. "Rosa, I need willow bark tea, cool water, cloths. Tom, open the windows. James, bring ice from the springhouse. Annie, stay and sing to her. She needs to hear you." To her surprise, everyone obeyed, even Ethan. Hours passed as Sarah worked tirelessly, bathing Mary's face, cooling her body, coaxing tea down her throat. Annie sang softly. Tom stood guard at the door. James came and went with buckets of melting ice, his usually tough expression shaken with fear. Ethan sat in a chair near the bed, pretending to read a ledger but never turning a page. By evening, Mary's fever broke. Her eyes fluttered open. She saw Sarah first. "Are you an angel?" Sarah smiled through her exhaustion. "No, sweetheart, just Sarah." Quote. Mary whispered, "Mama used to take care of me like this." The room fell silent. Ethan stood abruptly and walked out. Sarah found him on the porch later, staring into the horizon, hands braced against the railing. "She talked," he murmured hoarsely. "She hasn't spoken about her mother in 2 years." "She trusted me," Sarah said gently, "just like the others will, in time." He exhaled hard. "They miss her so much, I can't give them what she did." "What did she give them?" Quote, "Joy," he said, "hope, a feeling that tomorrow would be better. I'm not that man anymore." Sarah moved closer, careful not to touch. "You are better than you think. You take in children no one else wants. You carve toys for them. You stay awake nights checking on them. That's more than most fathers do." He looked at her sharply. "How do you know I carve toys?" "I saw one," she said softly, "in the youngest boy's hands." He swallowed hard. "You saved Mary," he whispered. You brought something back into this house." Sarah's heart ached for him, for all of them. Before either could speak, Tom appeared in the doorway. "Mary's asking for Miss Sarah and for you." They returned to Mary's room. All 4 children were gathered around the bed. Mary reached for Sarah first. "You stayed," Mary said. "I wasn't leaving," Sarah said, smoothing her hair. Then Mary turned to Ethan. "Papa, she took care of me like a mama." Ethan froze. Sarah's breath caught. The children stared, waiting. "She's not our mama," James muttered, voice tight. "She'll leave like everyone else." Sarah knelt beside him. "You're right. People have left you before. And I can't promise I'll never be taken from you. But I can promise this." Her voice softened. "As long as I am here, I will take care of you. Not because I have to, but because I want to." James looked down, fighting emotion. "That's what they all say." "Then I'll prove it," Sarah whispered. Later that night, after the children settled, Sarah found a steaming cup of tea waiting for her in the kitchen. Next to it, Ethan's handwriting. "Thank you. For Mary. For all of them." She held the warm cup and let the gratitude wash through her. Something had changed today. In the house. In the children. In Ethan. And in her. She was no longer a guest, no longer a burden. She was becoming something else. Something more. The next days brought quiet warmth into the ranch. The children followed Sarah eagerly now. Annie clung to her hand everywhere she went. Tom watched her with a new respect. Mary whispered for her at night. Even James, cautious and fierce, began leaving small offerings, an apple, a carved button, a feather, outside her door each morning. Ethan watched all of this from the corner of his eye. One evening, as Sarah stood on the porch watching the sunset paint the grasslands gold, Ethan joined her. Close, too close, but not touching. "You've changed this place," he said quietly. "So have you," she whispered. He turned toward her, eyes stormy with emotion he wasn't ready to say. But before he could speak, before either could step into dangerous ground, riders appeared near the horizon. Dust rose behind them like a warning. Ethan stiffened. "That's trouble," he said. "Who?" "Men who think they still own your debts." Sarah's blood ran cold. Ethan's jaw clenched. Let them come. The storm was returning. This time it was coming for her. What does a family do when danger comes straight to their front door? The riders approached fast, kicking up dust as they surged toward the double R. Sarah stood frozen on the porch, hands shaking, but Ethan was already striding forward with a calmness that came from years of surviving the frontier. "Get inside," he told her. "I'm not hiding." "You will if I tell you to," he said, eyes sharp. "I won't lose anyone today." His tone wasn't angry. It was fear wrapped in steel. The riders slowed near the corral. Sarah recognized the cruel smirk on the man leading them. Jed Hawkins. He leaned casually on his saddle horn, as if he wasn't here to cause trouble. "Evening, Rollins," he said lazily. "Heard you've got something that belongs to me." Ethan didn't flinch. "There's nothing here for you." Hawkins grinned wider. "I paid good money for that girl's debts. That makes her property, and property can't just walk away." Sarah's heart squeezed. She could feel the children behind her in the doorway, huddled close and terrified. "I'm not property," she said, stepping forward, "and I'm not yours." Hawkins' eyes gleamed with cruel amusement. "Sweetheart, everything's for sale out here. Even you." Ethan's hand moved toward his gun. But before anything could happen, 6-year-old Annie darted out from behind Sarah and screamed, "You leave my mama alone!" Sarah froze. "Mama." The word hit her like a shout inside her own chest. Hawkins laughed. "Ain't that cute?" Then everything changed in one heartbeat. Hawkins dismounted with a grunt and grabbed Annie's arm. Not hard enough to hurt her, but enough to make her shriek. Sarah lunged forward, but Ethan was faster, ripping Annie out of Hawkins' grip. "That's your last mistake," Ethan said, voice low and deadly. Hawkins' grin faded. "This ain't over, Rollins." He spat in the dirt, mounted his horse, and his men followed him out. When they disappeared over the ridge, Ethan turned to check on Annie. She clung to him, shaking. Sarah knelt beside them, taking Annie's little hands in hers. "Sweetheart, are you hurt?" Annie shook her head, but tears were running down her cheeks. "I tried to be brave like you." Sarah pulled her into her arms. "You were brave, but don't you ever run toward danger like that again." Ethan rested his hand on Annie's back, relief softening his face. "She's right. Next time, you stay behind me." Sarah looked at him. "There won't be a next time, not if we end this now." The next morning, Sheriff Coleman arrived with news. Hawkins had been caught trying to rob a supply wagon outside another town. Armed robbery, assault, and resisting arrest meant he'd be shipped to Huntsville Prison, far from Willow Creek. "He won't be back anytime soon," the sheriff said. "You can sleep easy." Ethan shook his hand. "Appreciate it." When the sheriff left, Sarah felt the tension release from her shoulders for the first time in days. But something else was happening too. Something quiet, something warm. Ethan walked toward her slowly, his hat in his hand, eyes softer than she'd ever seen. "You kept this house standing," he said quietly. "You kept the children safe. You kept me going." Sarah swallowed. "We did it together." "No," he said. "You brought life back to a place that had forgotten what hope felt like." She felt her breath catch. "Ethan." He took both of her hands gently. "I'm done pretending I don't feel what I feel. You changed everything the moment you stepped onto my land. You healed my children. You healed me." Her heart beat hard and fast. He looked down, voice rough with emotion. "I've been afraid to ask you this again, afraid I'd lose what little peace we have. But after yesterday, I know I'd rather risk the future than let another day pass in silence." He lifted her chin with one calloused hand. "Sarah Bennett, stay. Not as a guest. Not as a debt. Stay as my wife." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Ethan, Papa?" A small voice whispered behind them. They turned. 4 children stood there. Tom, James, Mary, Annie. All waiting, all hoping. Annie stepped forward first, clutching Sarah's skirt. "Mama Sarah, will you marry Papa?" Mary grabbed her hand next. "Please." Tom and James stayed back, trying to act older, but their eyes said everything. They were scared she would say no. Sarah felt her heart break open wide. She knelt, so she was level with them. "If I say yes, this becomes my home. All of you become my family. Forever. Is that what you want?" "Yes," they whispered together. Sarah looked at Ethan. His eyes said everything he couldn't. And with tears slipping down her cheeks, she whispered, "Yes." Ethan's breath left him like he'd been punched. Relief and joy washed across his face as he pulled her into his arms. The children cheered, wrapping themselves around them in a pile of arms and warmth. Ethan kissed Sarah's forehead and whispered, "You're mine now, and I'm yours, tonight, tomorrow, forever." Sarah held on to him, feeling the weight of her past finally fall away. She was no longer alone. She was no longer unwanted. She was no longer a woman standing on an auction block. She was a wife, a mother, a chosen heart in a chosen family. And for the first time in her life, she belonged.